And a good morning to you. Welcome inside the bottom line. 62 degrees, mostly cloudy. Light long sleeve shirt today. It's that type of weather, but February is on its way back tomorrow, in case anybody's keeping score. Low mid 50s and rain. Welcome back, February. And just in case you're wondering, I don't think we're finished with cold weather or frost. Frost deadline is still just over 45 days away. April 15th is the official frost deadline.
I wonder if, just how things are, Mother Nature always balances herself out, right? So I wonder if we'll have like a later frost this year because we've had all this, 70 and 80 degree weather. You know what I'm saying? It's just really weird how things, work. And,
it's a little bit different. Well, go back and look at weather records, and nothing's really different. It doesn't change. People think, oh, my God, weather's awful. The heat's went up 800 degrees in the last 5 years. Well, it really hadn't. It's went up maybe a degree or two in the last 100.
Interesting, Laney, about that. My grandfather was born in 1908, and he passed well over 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 26. But he was telling me, he lived in Thomasville. He was telling me in the 1930s and the early 30s that they could actually, he saw people driving, the cars across, some of the ponds there because it was so cold. And he said it stayed that way for 6 to 8 weeks in the winter. He said it just deep freeze. He said it's just awful. And then he said, I remember the time, I believe it was in the 50s, when he said it was just like hardly got any snow. It was warm like 10 months out of the year. He said it's just crazy. And this was back in the 80s, when I was a little kid. And I say little kid, I was a teenager, and we were just talking about stuff. And, how the world's still new, and you're asking questions, all these things. But, yeah, he was telling me about all that. He lived through, obviously the Depression. He was in his, early 20s when that went through, and he's talking about all that. But he said it was there was a year where it didn't hardly rain, and it had a bunch of dust come, which is, he's talking about the Dust Bowl coming out. So that's why I was asking about it. I wonder if it'll –
I remember things, and here's the deal. This is the part that it's not a single factor, okay?
Right.
Part of it is the climate around here is much warmer, but the biggest, it's not the greenhouse gases and all that kind of stuff. There's more bodies. There's more body heat. There's more things going on. There's more buildings that are being heated. There's more paved area that heats up. You know what I'm saying? That back then, you could probably count on one hand how many paved roads he saw.
Sure.
I mean, when you look at the asphalt and concrete that's come in, all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of contributing factors. But I can remember growing up, in the fall, we would have days of rain and the creeks would get out.
Right.
We don't do that as much as we used to. And I don't know, I think most of that is not as much, maybe it doesn't rain as much, but the way that everything's set up now, there's different ways of catching the drainage and the runoff and that kind of thing. You don't have it as much.
Right.
You've got development, but that development has to do other things with catch basins and all these kind of things, so the rain goes at an easier thing. Richie, good morning.
Todd was saying something about that new development that's going up with the way that they're, the way they've set up draining and catch basins and everything. That there where Sigmund Field is, and the floodplain behind it on the other side where Caroline Terrace is. Todd and I were talking. He said, that thing may not flood near as much because instead of the water entering the creek the first 24 hours, it'll take 48 to 72. And
I went to
be great,
the new data center that's coming. Yeah. It's Microsoft Data Center. And a lot of people were concerned because they were concerned about the runoff down to that creek, right there that you cross on West Main Road.
Yeah.
And when the developers or whoever was there talked about it, said that honestly it would be a vast improvement because of the catch basin ponds that have to be built. Right. The water won't flow as fast, and you won't have the runoff and flooding that you have with it not being touched now.
What's interesting is, too, and, of course, I know we talk about, but, the flooding was so important for so many years because of, certain areas that grow crops and just replenishing the soil. But, there's a lot of new, obviously techniques, and kind of what you said, I've noticed, especially here in Maiden the last – I've been here, over 20 years, 25 years, is just how many people have moved in and how much construction is, gone on. and just how different. Even though the downtown area still has a lot of the same feel, as far as that, but it's just really interesting to watch the development and the new things that are happening. Kind of getting it back to the way it was, 60 years ago when there was a lot of people living in town. So,
well, I have. How do I put this? I'm pretty progressive about things.
Yeah.
I like controlled growth.
Right.
And if you don't have growth, you die. Just throwing it out there.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
just the way it works.
100%. Yeah.
And a lot of people like to use Mooresville as an example. How it just exploded.
Yeah.
Well, let me explain to you, because I do mornings down there and I run that radio station. Let me explain to you how that happened. Yeah. Here's what happened. There were a lot of residents and rulers on the town boards, whatever it was called.
Right.
City council, town council, whatever, that fought it. We're not letting it happen. We're not letting it happen. So they had little things that came in. But then what happened was people moved into the area that wasn't from here, and they built a little following and got themselves elected. And then what they do was they said, by God, let me kick open the doors.
Well,
and that's what they did. They didn't scale it. They didn't monitor it. They just kicked open the doors and let everything come and approved everything. And now they've got a god-awful mess because it grew too fast. Yeah. So you can either play with your head in the sand and blindfolds on and it's not really happening, but you better get controlled growth because people will come in – get elected, and then you can't fix it.
Well, I mean, I've been saying that for the last several years here in town as well. With using that exact example, because that is in essence what happened in Mooresville. And you like to use the term responsible growth. Growth that is nice and steady, not just bam all at once. But things change, and you have to be, like we talked about the other day, most willing to adapt to change. So. Hopefully things will get back on track.
Mm-hmm. But it's just, it's the way it's going to be. And I'm sorry. I'm answering Richie. Richie asked if West Lincoln's getting turf.
Yeah, it's already started.
Yeah, Lincoln and West Lincoln are underway now. East Lincoln's, but they're all supposed to be in place by football season.
They will be. They'll have it done. They're very efficient with that. And I went through that I went through it when I was in Buncombe County.
Buncombe County did it years ago.
Well, they did it back in, 05. And, they went ahead and invested into the fields, and they had a lot of turf left over, so they had, things they could do for softball and baseball, not turfing their fields, but giving them sideline turf and, things like that to clean things up and make the, surfaces and areas, more playable and, just cleaner and that kind of thing. But I will tell you that Buncombe County did it right because we had a drought 2 years later. And you think about diesel, fertilizer, water, how much water they put on those fields. I was coaching up there when there were grass fields, went to Madison County up the next year. Every one of them in Buncombe County, 5 high schools, and in Asheville City, made 6. They all went in together. And they got this little Zamboni thing that they drive around that spreads the pebbles back out.
And it packs it back down.
Yeah, right. But the point is it's an investment. It's not an expense. And the quality of play, the ability to get games in, the ability for other teams to practice, soccer, baseball, softball, track. I mean, all these teams can practice on that turf because the water drains down through it. Unless it's a monsoon out there, they're under tornado watch, you're practicing.
And you
can't get that time back when you don't.
And Lenore Ryan did the same thing.
Yeah,
they saw that.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
And I know one of the things that Butch Parker had mentioned, and those wonder about Butch doing much better. One of the things that he mentioned is the conference is going to look at maybe trying to do their tournaments up there, because then the weather and stuff doesn't come into play. Because when you got a conference tournament, baseball or softball, you only got a limited window that you can get it done.
Yeah. Got the sports seasons all screwed up anyway when they play. So.
Yeah. You've got to stop,
what is
Duck. Duck says, let's talk sports. How about those Hurricanes? I don't hear from you when they suck, and now you want to talk Hurricanes when they're
I
out
love
there
it.
doing something.
No, that's cool.
Okay?
That's cool. That's cool. That's
Yeah.
fun. That's fun.
Bob said move a little closer to your mic. He can't hear you, and he misses you.
Hi, Bob.
I'm working on some new things. I got to get 4 one of these. I just hadn't had time. Anyway, let's go sports. Let's go sports right now.
Yeah, the Bull had his first homeschool middle game. God, middle school.
Homeschool
middle school game. Golly, hey, hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had that on Wednesday, so that's cool. Lab's got one of those now for kids, and they play like, they'll play some teams like out of Caldwell County, Charlotte, some local teams, and also they go and play Asheville Day School, which the guy that coaches up there, coaches one of our, one of the teams down here. So it's cool. It's good. A lot of fun.
Asked a question for you Redskin fans, and I know that I know Richie is one, so I'll go ahead and throw it out there. This is a story.
It's not Redskins.
Yes, they are. They've been Redskins longer than they've been Commanders in my lifetime.
I'm being funny. Yeah, I know, man. I know. I do it all the time. Just can't help it.
Wasn't a slip. That's on purpose. Jeff Bezos has hired an investment firm to examine the possibility of a bid on the Commanders. Bezos hired the boutique investment firm of Allen & Company, the same company that conducted the sale of the Denver Broncos last year and the Carolina Panthers in 2018. Bezos, who also owns the Washington Post, I did not know that,
Interesting.
has not yet submitted a bid for the Commanders. While the source emphasized it was still early in the process, the latest move signals a higher degree of interest in possibly making a bid. Now, my question would be, and Bezos he's the 3rd richest person in the world, according to Forbes. He has a net worth of $119 billion.
You talking about Jeff Bezos?
Bezos.
No. You talking about Amazon?
Yes.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, I got.
I'm sorry. I don't.
No.
I don't read well.
I was making sure that's what. Okay, we're good.
The only other bidder known to have toured the facility, this was last month, is Josh Harris. Harris grew up in the Washington area. He owns the 76ers as well as the New Jersey Devils and is a limited partner in the Steelers.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so I guess we'll see what happens there. Now, I guess my question would be, are you okay with that? Will it make a difference?
Nah.
Or is it just another filthy rich person wanting another toy?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't really think it's that.
Do you like what the Broncos' new ownership has done?
As far as
hiring a coach and putting some pieces together?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Laney, the business world is, there's a lot of similarities from, and there always will be, right? But there's also a lot of differences because of being global and, the interconnectivity of everything, and the resources that Jeff Bezos has, and the other people that he would bring in with him, could be very dynamic, for maybe a new feel, a new look in Washington, but. It's just one of those things that, a lot of times when people start screaming about other people, in a lot of cases it's because that person's swimming against the stream and not putting up with the good old boy stuff. And that's when a lot of angst and fear creeps in, and what people do is they lash out then. Now, that doesn't excuse inappropriate or deviant behavior. I'm not saying that. But, there's a lot of people that kind of do things – that they feel like are right for what they're trying to do for their organization, and then, then people start screaming because it may go against a narrative or against a trend.
But do you not think the NFL kind of needs a new influx of new blood from an ownership standpoint with a lot of the ones that are out there? Sure. Because there are things that definitely need to be looked at and changed and updated. But the old guard is not much to do that. Now, I'm not saying that you revamp the whole thing.
Oh, no.
But you've just got a lot of old ownership out there that don't consider anything.
Well, I think the old ownership doesn't want to take it global, and I don't blame them.
Well, and I don't see that either.
Well, that's that when you bring in globalists, and I'm not saying they're bad people. That's just their outlook, their point of view. You know, we tend to get into name calling when we're trying to describe, when the intent is to describe, you know, maybe what people, you know, their intent is. It doesn't mean it's bad. It's just their intent. We may not agree with it, therefore we think it's bad. But, you know, when you start bringing in new blood, it's going to start going global. They're already doing everything they can to push it down to Mexico. You know, my question is, we got Canada right above us. Yeah, but they already got football. Well,
isn't there kind of like an agreement there that they can't
there
step
is.
on?
But then, you know, and then there's always that, you know, that question, did football really, you know, start in Canada like basketball was supposed to? I mean, you know, all these give and takes about where – I mean, what I'm saying is a globalization, you know, can be a great thing, but when you have a specific product that it does as well as it does, you know, and there's a lot of people who want to hold on to that because it's doing good, and if it's not broke, don't fix it. And then there's other viewpoints with new ownership coming in. You know, hey, let's travel over here. Let's do this. Let's make, you know, we're more of a connected world. And so we're going to see more of this. We see it in baseball all the time. You know, NBA does it. You know, they got NBA Europe. You know, they had NFL Europe for a while, or still,
and I watched
you know, which is fine.
Yeah. But
you know, there's a lot of, I don't know, I guess some people are fearful of change. Well, I would say most people are to some degree because of the unknown, not because they don't want it. It's just because they don't know. But this is, you know, there's so many different ways to look at ownership and how they do things. What's interesting to me is the Steelers, when they have partial owners, you never hear about those partial owners trying to redo things within the organization. They're very respectful of the Rooney family and the job that, you know, that they have done and the way they've portrayed things in that city and for the league, right? But yet you see combinations of ownership in other places, and they try to take everything over, do this narrative or do that or go over here and do. So it's just interesting to me how things, you know, are trying to be different, but yet they're really the same.
I'm going to take a break in a minute. If anybody out there knows anything about English, tell me how you get Bezos out of B-E-Z-O-S. But I'm not an English major. I spelled bad words in English class just because who I am. Richie thinks that he would do better. Todd Herm said he's the third richest now after his divorce. That's funny.
True.
Richie said the NFL is still a good old boy network, even though they have tried to show they are changing the narrative. Well, part of that problem is the cat that's running it. So
meritocracy. And it's, you know, that's the way it's set up. And, you know, and everything that is talked about against that, but yet that's the structure in NFL. And, you know, that may not be a popular narrative or people don't want to hear that word.
Right.
But it's very, very true and very telling. And often narratives don't like truth. They like narrative.
Let me take a break. We come back.
That's what it is.
I got a few more details on NFL, CFL, and then we will talk those 13th ranked what's the guy that's a coach at Miami? Larinaga. I believe that's right. I butcher names all the time. We'll talk some basketball too.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily, or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with auto owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver or visit mooneyinsurance.com. Stifel Nicholas now has an office in your community. Stifel Nicholas is a full-service organization offering a wide range of investment vehicles and services. These include money market funds, CDs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, annuities, retirement plans, and managed accounts, to name a few. Our financial advisors will sit down with you and help you tailor an investment plan, explaining strategies and investments which may help you achieve your personal goals. Call 4Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stifel Nicholas, member SIPC, and the New York Stock Exchange. And welcome back. Glad to have you here on a Friday afternoon. Beautiful, beautiful day on tap for today.
You know, Todd would be the 4th richest man in the world if he ever got divorced. It'd take him from second, Todd Herms.
Yeah.
Take him from second to 4th. But I was just, I tell you, man.
Okay.
Hey,
I'm not,
who's here?
I'm not going to crack the top million, I promise, of the richest people in the
Look,
world.
man. That guy.
And that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
I mean, the guy flies all over the world with Tim Cook.
What can I say?
Todd, I'm kidding. I'm being funny.
go.
I'm just having a good laugh.
I'm not. This is according to Third Down Nation. There was an agreement with players between the CFL and the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
There's an NFL window that set guidelines from players from the Canadian League can go about signing contracts south of the border. So when they first did this was in 1997. It remained in place till 2012, and then the CFL tried to bring it back in recent years and now returned after clearing some necessary hurdles. But here's what happens. Any CFL player, not just pending free agents, any player is eligible to use the NFL window, which opened on December, this is talking about last year, December 13, 21, and closed February of 22. The only exception to this rule, players who receive off-season bonuses, which deems them ineligible for the NFL window.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they just don't make it available for anybody, because by that time, first of all, the CFL is well over and done by November. I mean, the Grey Cup's like October or something.
Yeah, it's smart on their part.
Yeah. So there should be some things, and there's never been talk of any merger or CFL teams being able to join, because here's the problem. The NFL doesn't need them. They'll just go put a franchise up there. Somebody would buy a franchise and they'd just expand up there.
But it's different football. You know, it's a different brand. It's a different form, of football Americano, right?
Now, Richie says he thinks there's a law in Canada that the NFL cannot expand.
Nothing would
Protecting
surprise
their
me
game.
about, hey, look.
But you know what they say? Money talks and walks.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of up there. I can tell you that. But anyway, that's another story for another day. But I'm very happy about the NCAA. I found out in 1993 they made face mask on helmets mandatory.
What year?
1993.
Wow.
So so I thought that was good. That
mandatory.
Mandatory, not starting in 1993.
That's awesome.
So you could play football without a face mask until 1993.
Don't anybody say that the NCAA is not on top of things?
Yeah,
because they are.
I mean that's great.
All right, one brief moment of basketball for Byron. AP top 25 is out. Houston's number 1. Alabama, Kansas, UCLA, Purdue, Virginia, the first ACC team at number 6. Arizona, Texas, Baylor, Marquette. That rounds out the top 10. And then Rick Barnes, Tennessee, Volunteers at number 11. Gonzaga, Miami. There you go, Duck. Number 13 at 22-5. Now they've got a pretty good record and a record that's better than some of the teams above them.
Yeah.
There's just the ACC so bad.
Well, and it's about you get into that, and it's kind of to your point. The record's very good. They're going against they're when they vote, it's based off of obviously competition, the eye test, those kind of things. It doesn't discount how good Miami is or how they're playing. People are just subject to that. Now, what's great about that is none of those rankings matter until the absolute final one comes out.
That's right. That's right.
So what I think is there's a good chance that Tennessee and Gonzaga will be in the national championship game. That's what I'd
like to see it for Rick Barnes.
Well,
he's going into the North Carolina
right, for
Sports Hall of Fame.
But obviously, hometown, great guy, all that. But they just have their team is potentially built to make that run. Alabama has some overhang with some issues that are out there that could limit them with their best player. Some of the things that I think have come to light the last few days or week or so, and then. Houston is a great team.
How long has it been since Houston was up at
80,
the top?
83, 84, some 85, something like that. Okay.
Wasn't that 5 slamma jam?
Yeah, and they were incredible.
Okay.
And worth every bit of the publicity and hype.
Yeah.
And, NC State, obviously with them winning on the last second, how they won, no problem.
And NC State is 26, just dropped out of the top 25. In the coaches poll, they're 24th. So there's only 2 ACC teams in the top 25 right now.
Should be 3.
Virginia and Miami's on 2, I see.
And then, I'm sorry, you meant in the other top 25. I'm sorry.
AP top 25.
I'm sorry. Yes.
3 inside the coaches poll.
Coaches poll.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, in those next ones receiving votes, you do have Duke got 3 votes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the only one. And then Duke got 13 votes in the coaches poll, but they're probably going to be in the
So what's interesting is let's say that Carolina does get in, okay, and they do start playing. They have the potential based off of experience and being in a tournament, if they can get things worked out, to make a very strong, obviously based on last year as well, but being there, having that experience, knowing how to handle things. Now, does that mean they're going to? No, but Duke, has a lot of new kids that are playing. So, that's maybe something they'll have to look at and try to overcome. But they've got some there's a lot of talented players. I think the biggest thing that we're seeing in today's game is the traditional teams that always had good teams are relying on individual players. And when you rely on individual talent, it'll only get you so far, but not in championship. Not
got to have the team, and you got to have some bench.
The role playing guys,
that's right.
Are the ones that Michael Jordan was a role player when he was, even though he was a starter, he was still a role player in that '82 national championship team. He, obviously just hit the big shot, but he was a role player in that. James Worthy, great player. They all had roles, just like NC State's team the next year. Wittenberg had his role. Sidney Lowe had his role. Kozel,
and
incredible.
They are, and they were experienced teams.
And that's
teams
what I'm
with
getting
lots
at.
of hours on the shoes. With the team, the chemistry together. The one and done teams can do pretty good regular season, but it's hard for them to make tournament runs because they don't have the chemistry to do it.
Yeah, years ago I was at ECU when Carolina won the '93 national championship, and so there was a guy that played on the team named Scott Cherry. Well, he moved down to Greenville, North Carolina after he graduated and worked for a pharmaceutical company. And I got to know him. I'd see him out or whatever, and he's out of town or whatever, and I'd see him, and I'd just walk up to him and I'd say, "Can I see your national champion?" He's like, "Sure." Well, I started talking to him. Next thing I know, we were just, hanging out, whatever, no big deal, for the next, 6 months or whatever till I graduated school. And I was asking him, this was like in the fall, and I asked him, I said, what was it about that team, that was so good? He said the word team. He said everybody had a defined role. He said a guy like me, that worked really hard, he said, I came in as a freshman, hardly ever saw the court. Sophomore, junior, he said, but Coach Smith found roles and made it important where he could implement it into the game, for us to be able, to go in and make a meaningful contribution within. And he said we knew what we were supposed to do.
Right.
And he said that was the difference. He said he felt like between them and Michigan. Mm-hmm. He said out there, he said they weren't really that hard to play against. He said because as soon as you stop this one, he would get frustrated. Mm-hmm. Or if you shut this one down, and then they start doing crazy stuff. And he wasn't criticizing them. He was just explaining the difference in the philosophy. And if you think about it, Lanny, Jim Valvano was very much a philosophy guy. Obviously, Coach Krzyzewski, the Bill Fosters of the world back in the day. Mm-hmm. But my point is, it's just really interesting how that is no longer the focus. It's only on something quick, being first and being flashy and not being consistent and great. And I think that's why a lot of these offensive coaches that we talk about, whether it be in college or pro ball, are falling on their face because and it's not fair to them, but an expectation. I mean, why would you hire – and I don't dislike him. I think Cliff Kingsbury is not a bad dude. I think he's got a lot of class for not showing his, rear end based on what he had to deal with. Okay, he did a good job. But my point is, why would you think that he would come in and, be the guy? Why?
Yeah.
I mean, he's not a bad guy. He's not a bad coach. That's not what I mean. But, I mean, he gets fired from a college job and he gets an NFL job. Yeah. I'm confused on – where consistency and sustainability is.
They're
it's
thinking
all about, this.
They're thinking, I'm smarter than you. I saw things that you didn't
deal
see.
with that all the time.
Or
you can't do it this way. Mm-hmm. When I hear that, I know that person has stopped growing in whatever they're doing because they're not willing to look against norms. And what I used to
they're
love,
not doing fair evaluations is what they're doing.
That's what I'm saying. I'd love it when an offensive coordinator or somebody that thinks they're, just so smart out of this world, right, tells me, well, you can't line up that way or you can't do it this way. Let me tell you something. There's a reason I'm doing it. And it's because you think that I can't line up this way and you're going to run this play, but yet I'm going to defend it the way that crazy stuff. Right. So I don't know.
Milton, good morning. Hope you're feeling better. Richie said, had to look it up. In the 80s, the USFL was going to place a team in Canada. The Canadian government passed a law that an American football team could not be based in Canada as long as the CFL exists.
That makes sense.
Happy Friday, CS. I got you. Have to explain to me how you get Bezos out of Bezos because I didn't say it that way.
He grew up in Valdez.
Okay,
so that's how.
Richie said Tennessee needs to get healthy and figure their offense
that's right.
out.
That's
right now it looks like they're in rock fights most games.
Yeah.
And Richie said, I guess Carolina. He's talking about Carolina that they'll have to win the ACC tournament at this point to get in.
Maybe. I mean, I know what he's saying, and there's probably a lot of truth to that. But, in the end, it's kind of like it's about viewership. I mean, St. Mary's, Chapel Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Commercials. I'm not going against St. I was
what
just using
brings
the
eyeballs?
You got to, if you're going to let 7,000 teams in a tournament, you got to kind of get the teams that, are going to draw the most interest. Now, all of a sudden, we can't become noble and say, well, only the best teams will get in. I mean, we haven't been doing that for years.
How do you do that when you let 68 in? You're not really counting. You're just trying to get a bunch out there.
Let me 5,000 in for you.
Byron said it's Tennessee's on a pretty rough stretch last 3 weeks. They've been several top 10 teams lose this week, including Virginia and Miami.
Yep.
They should be top 10 next week. And said we're currently first in the ACC at 23-5.
Yep.
And he said don't forget about Pitt. Now I'm going to say this.
Point.
I'm going to say this.
Good point.
Is I don't. Larinaga is the guy. Right,
incredible.
Okay,
love him to death.
But I'm not sure. I'm not sure he's the guy that can win the national championship. But let me tell you why I think Miami is being successful because he's old school and he has a plan, like you're talking about.
His players love him. I
mean,
the younger kids like gravitate to him, and the coach at Florida State,
Leonard Hamilton.
They gravitate to those guys because they know they truly care about them, the person, and not the player.
The last quarterback at Highland High School before it was recreated.
Amazing.
Amazing. But I remember, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was at Miami and had just got to Miami, and they played Charlotte 49ers when I was still doing some basketball with them. But, he's a guy that he's a legend in college basketball.
He is.
I mean, just that simple. Milton said, I think the talent is not as good as it used to be. Players are not as dedicated. Lindsay said, Carolina's fan base matters financially. I hate to say that, but that's –
Now, who said that who said the one before Lindsay?
Milton.
What did he say?
He said, I think the talent is not as good as it used to be. Players are not as dedicated.
Well,
that's what I said when we talked to Rob.
Right. And I think, too, that we just don't see people that can really shoot the basketball anymore.
They're not as fundamentally sound as they used to be.
As maybe in an era, previously where there were great shooters, I don't know. That's an interesting point that has some validity to it.
Yeah. Well, I said that. I told you that I feel like it's the same thing, and I told Rob that I was hoping that the, as much as I don't like it, the NIL went too far, but I'm hoping the NIL will entice some of these college players to take a genuine look at, I can't get that contract in the NBA after a year. I'm going to hang on in college and make a couple $1 million and play basketball and get my skills better, getting paid to get my skills better, even if you don't like it. And I'm hoping it will bring the game back a little bit more, because the biggest thing that's missing is just what you said. There's not enough continuity in college basketball teams anymore because they don't spend any time together.
Well, too, I think anytime you make money the sole purpose of what your ambitions are, then I don't think you can maximize your potential or to the benefit of others. And that's the problem with this whole thing. There's nothing wrong with making money. Money's not evil. It's not the root of that. That's not true. That's a misinterpretation. Okay, money makes the world go round. It does a lot of great things. It keeps people healthy. It keeps people fed. Money is a great thing. The problem is when that becomes the sole purpose. And I think that could be true in any profession. Achieving your very best that you can be for the benefit of others. When I watch Michael Jordan play, and we all use him as an example, but I don't ever I can't think back of a time when I watched him play that money was what was on his mind.
Right.
When I watch LeBron play, and or others in the NBA, and I say LeBron, let's just say players in the NBA today, or even back, you can really tell who's playing for money and prestige instead of playing to be the champion, right? And excuse me, what's interesting to me is and that doesn't make people bad or wrong. It just again, I don't know if that's the right way to go about things. You need to be motivated. You need to be able to make money to be able to provide and this, that, and the other. But, having a profession and a career and something you're really good at needs to be more, aligned with satisfaction that you are contributing and helping others in some form or fashion, right? Whatever it is you do, instead of just saying, well, I got this money and this is why I'm doing it. I think that's a bad omen for college basketball, college football. I don't like money in college athletics, even though it's always been there. I just don't like it.
I know.
I don't like it at all.
It's changed a little bit. Let me take a break and be back in just a minute.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with auto owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver or visit mooneyinsurance.com. Stifel Nicholas now has an office in your community. Stifel Nicholas is a full-service organization offering a wide range of investment vehicles and services. These include money market funds, CDs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, annuities, retirement plans, and managed accounts, to name a few. Our financial advisors will sit down with you and help you tailor an investment plan, explaining strategies and investments which may help you achieve your personal goals. Call 4Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stifel Nicholas, member SIPC, and the New York Stock Exchange. And welcome back. Switch back over here to my other screen where all my information is. I cheat. I have to cheat. Hope you, if you didn't get a chance to see the show last night, you really need to pull it. Not because I was part of it, but a friend of mine, Pastor Billy Shaw, just did a book, and it's called There Is Always Hope. And it's a great book. It's easy read. It's based on personal experiences. And if you get a chance to do that, that book's like less than $15. Great book. I got an advance copy of it. So that we could do it. Let's see. Milton said everybody wants to showboat when you're talking about all of these teams. You're right. Byron says Tar Heel's not going to make the tournament when they only make 5 shots in the first half and no assist against a 2-win conference game against Notre Dame. I think Carolina and Duke have to make semis to make it.
Yeah.
Okay. In the tournament.
Show that they're
Lindsay said, I think Carolina's lack of success, and she said, I'm a Tar Heel, but I also have eyes, has something to do with individuals getting paid, and it's not about winning because the money comes to them either way. That's what professional sports is. That's why they want these guaranteed contracts. And that's 100% right.
100% gold star check for you today.
Right.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And the thing of it is, make an objective observation, okay, because of what it is.
It's already been invested in. Everybody's trying to quantify everything. I used to hear that at a former firm I worked at. We're trying to quantify how we go. I said, wait a minute. The value is the value. All right? And the quality is the quality. You can't quantify things and try to put everything into a number. Excuse me. You can do that, but you can't be successful because the only thing that really matters is what's in here when it comes to competition. Because this will control this. This is where champions come from, not this.
Richie followed up, and he's a Tar Heel fan, but Richie followed up on Lindsay's comment and said, I'm not sure if that is it or not, but there's definitely something wrong when you return 4 players on a team that found the switch and played at the levels they did to make the title game. Now it's like Coach Davis is trying to coach guys' effort. You can't coach effort. So you can't coach desire.
No, but he's right. Okay, so there's 13 core principles to success. Desire's number one, okay? You have to have desire before you can do anything. If you've got – the word that's never talked about is grit. Most successful people in life that have businesses or have a high level of success and degree, there's 3 things that they are. Number 1, they're really good with people. Number 2, they have grit. And number 3, it's not why can I, it's how can I, right? Those are 3 things that help people get to the next level to keep achieving at whatever it is they want to do. And I'm not necessarily talking about money success. I'm talking about whatever path they're on, right? Those are the things that they have that just keep them going and keep stepping it up. And with Carolina, Coach Davis has got his hands tied because he's not in control when money is being changed hands. Right. He's no longer in control.
Well,
you can say he coaches the team, but he manages it. He don't coach it.
You're
and
not.
It's not his fault. I get out.
As you used to. Well, that's why. I think that's why Roy got out. That's why Krzyzewski got out.
Why?
I think Boeheim's not far behind because they're not. It's not what it used to be.
And that's okay.
Yes, that's correct.
That's okay.
That's
but to your point, it's not. The perception of success is now going to be different. Success was, we had a really good season. Let me tell you something. Nobody gives a crap unless you win the last game. Okay, they don't. I think it was quoted in maybe Moneyball or something like that. He's right. I mean, that's what I tell everybody. You win this number of games. Nobody cares. You might, but nobody cares. It doesn't matter unless you win the last game you can play.
Now, that's a good comment, Milton. Milton said,
matter.
But it's not true. I hate to tell you that.
What's he talking
Milton
about?
said, make it like the real world. No production, no money. Well, even the real world is changing now because nobody wants to do anything. They want the money, and they're getting the money.
Well, they get look at all of the. It's like a world of handouts instead of handouts.
I'm not even talking about the social programs. I'm talking about people that are actually at a job. They just halfway do the job. I had another word I was going to say there, but and they still get paid. And they still get paid. And
I've been showing up, Lenny, every day for 3 months, and I've been on time. Do I not get a raise?
I know.
No, it's not about your participation.
I know.
That's what happens when you give trophies out, and we're blaming that generation when that has been put in their mindset. When you praise children, oh, you're such a good kid. You're such a good student. You're so smart. Well, then they get out in the world, and they're like, well, I need this constant reinforcement. Therefore, they're always trying to, do this, do that, get out. It's just it's not sustainable from a mental standpoint. And another thing is, thinking about this especially with the athletes in today's world. We hear a lot about don't judge this, don't do this, don't judge that, right? So when people actually follow your wishes and say, you know what, you're right, I don't care about you or what you do. I wish you the best, but I don't care. And then all of a sudden when people – we're like, well, wait a minute, why is nobody paying attention to me? because we all need to be paid attention to. You know, we need that human connectivity. But once we get our wish where, you know, people aren't doing this, now all of a sudden we start jumping up and down screaming, going, look at me. There's, you know, what about me? What about this? Well, you told me I'm not supposed to care about you. And I stopped doing that. And now you want me to? My point of that is, you know, when we see this, this is why we have so much of the, you know, in today's world with social media and things, the shots, you know, when they stick the phone up and they're, you know, doing all this after the game and they're doing all this stuff. You know, it used to that they were celebrated within their towns or their schools after a game. Everybody jumped around. It was great. You didn't have phones, but you got that, and then you left. Well, today you can't go on a field. You can't go on a court, you know, for safety reasons, right? Well, kids have to have that emotional connectivity, and so they're going to reach out to get it if it's not being fulfilled. That's why when I see people or kids on social media that are doing things extensively, and it's all about, you know, how they look or what they've done or this, that, or the other, then they're reaching out because something's not being fulfilled. And I'm not criticizing. I'm saying, you know, a lot of times we get what we ask for and then we don't like it.
Well, there's an old saying, be careful what you ask for.
Well, no,
because, you know, sometimes you think it's one thing, but in reality it's not. They just said, Dad and I spent a long time talking about the differences. We do.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
We had one of those conversations yesterday.
And that's healthy because you're engaged in you know, real life, you know, scenarios and the realizations that you see and perceive in your life, the things that you believe and think are real, right? Which oftentimes through conversation leads you to think a little deeper, which we all need to be able to think for ourselves. I think too long we've been dependent on other people thinking for us, okay? I think thinking for yourself and doing what you think is in the best interest of you and your family is the most important thing. But this is what's happening with these players. You know, they have all these expectations, and then they settle for this. Or they have all these expectations, and this $25 million deal is supposed to go through, and it doesn't. Well, I'm not going to school there because I can't get that money. I'm going to go over here. It's done. Yeah. It's done. You go if you want to watch football in college, you go Division II, you go Division III, you go NAIA, and you go JUCO, and you go watch because there's passion, there's heart, there's grit, there's determination.
They're there because they want to be for the love of the game.
It's not been infected.
Yeah,
okay?
That's right.
So
exactly
there
right.
it is.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Richie said, I told someone else this. Go back to when Dean and Roy, even Doherty coaching, when the starting five were not getting the job done, they were benched for the second five, and Roy and Dean especially sat down and crawled them while the second five played, and the assistant coach coached the second five.
Or Coach Guthridge would.
Yeah, you aren't seeing that right now,
true.
and I don't think you'll see it again. And I think you're right. I don't think you'll see it again, mainly because – too many hurt feelings, and the kids will go somewhere else where they won't talk to you like that. Milton said his dad had a statement: "No work, no eat."
Lanny, you know, though, think about your relationships with your players. Okay, back then and even now, those relationships are deep and have solid, positive deposits because they know that you cared about them, the person, and gave your best effort and focus for them in the things that you could do. Right? So, you know, when players get crawled, especially when we're using examples of maybe Coach K or in this, I believe, Roy and Dean, you know, just traditional, you know, the players understood that it was for the benefit of them, making them the best they could be so they could function as a team. And I don't see that today because everything's based on a contract or a right. You know, it's like Lou Holtz talked about. You know, today there's a lot of discussions about rights and privileges when back in the day I believe it was about responsibilities and some maybe duties or whatever it was. But he was right. You know, it's just a mindset change. Now, again, am I criticizing? No, I'm saying that's the difference in the approach, right, of, you know, I'm supposed to take care of this. It's my job. It's my duty. It's my responsibility versus, well, I'm owed this. Yeah. Now, again, that I'm not saying right or wrong. What I'm saying is that's the difference, and that's what we're seeing. And viewership is going to continue to do this as long as that's there because it's not true. It's not truth.
I did the same thing when I was coaching with my players as I did and do with my kids, and it blows Kim's mind because something happens and I ream you. Okay, but in 5 minutes it's over. We handled the situation. You need to understand what effect it had.
Yeah.
And I need to get my point across. But I'm not holding a grudge because she used to get mad because I could do that with the kids when they were younger, and in 30 minutes they're back on my lap, and she's like, how do you do that? How do they do that? I said, I handled the situation. Not that I don't love them, but we moved on. And I did it. I did it with my players the same way.
Yes.
I could bring a player out and crawl inside his helmet with him, okay?
Right.
And then 4 or 5 players later, I got my arm around him. Now, we ready to go? All right, you understand what we're doing. Okay, go out there and show me. And that's just that's who I am. That's the way I felt like it should work.
You know what's interesting about
and it worked
that
for me
is when you truly have the best interest of other people and the surrounding at hand.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's interesting is that I don't know how to. What's interesting is you can do that and have that rapport with that person, and they understand that it's the action.
It's not personal,
right? It's the action that has taken place of the event, not the person. They know
correct.
You love the person, and that's where the quick rebound of an emotional part of it comes from. That's the difference. I can't figure out.
Let me just go biblical here on you for just a second.
Please, all day.
I'm going to go biblical as we finish up.
All good with
There's a saying, and I guess it's kind of what I've based what I do, and you hear it all the time. You want to hate the sin, not the sinner.
Right.
And it's the same way.
Right.
I'm correcting the action.
Yep.
I'm not making it personal about you.
Right.
And when you can separate those two, you understand. The problem is so much of today's generation can't separate that two. Everything's personal.
They think the action is
everything becomes personal.
Yeah, I know.
Everything becomes personal. Mark Alton, good morning. He said legalize sports betting in North Carolina, 100% behind it. I'm 100% behind it. I don't think that you, going again, I'm going biblical here again, can't regulate morality, okay? I always said that when in Lincoln County for so long when they wanted to keep liquor by the drink out. Well, we're going to vote it out. Well, guess what? They're going to the next county, and there goes your taxes. Well, they're going to stop. No, they're not. They don't stop because you don't vote it in because they can get it locally. Same thing with that.
How did prohibition work again?
Oh, yeah, okay. They just said that was my teaching style for the most part, too. If I had a problem, we addressed it, and then life went on. Kids also didn't get that. I even had that in me when it happened, but they understood it was just that moment, and we're moving on. It's like disciplining a pet. It's the same way. You can't discipline them an hour later, you know. Todd Herm said, I have ever had a man talk to me like a high school football coach did when I missed an assignment. I almost cried, seriously. However, until he still texts me every once in a while to check on me and my family.
Yeah.
Never personal. I told you, Coach Bird told me one time I was whale crap on the bottom of the ocean because I was so low, and that's as low as I could get. And the next week I worked my way up to just regular crap. And with that being said, have a wonderful weekend. Juju and I will see you Monday night. Have a good one. The boys will be in here in the morning at 8. Take care.